All right, we're ready for the next conversation, which is about returning home from mission and meeting Barbara, marrying Barbara. So, as is becoming the new theme or the new trend, I should say, Dad has a theme for this one, and maybe something else in addition to it. So, Dad, we'll
Yeah.
start there.
So the epitaph to describe my life is that I married way over my head twice. So that's my epitaph.
Nice. And remind what the theme is for meeting Barbara. What's the theme?
The theme?
Did you have a theme there for that one?
I didn't know. I don't. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Maybe you'll get a theme by the end of it, or we'll
Yeah.
be able to theme.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole thing with Barbara was jump on and hang on. Yeah. So
All right, so you've talked about this a little bit in previous conversations we've had, but maybe let's start by describing what it was like coming home from your mission, starting school again. Maybe describe what you were like socially. Talk a little bit about what that environment was like.
so the start of school was really quick, as I mentioned before, because of Vietnam and the draft. I had to stop at BYU on the way home from Norway and register for school. Uh, got home for the weekend and was back at school on Monday. I had no time to be at home. So my at home time in Carmichael was the summer.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
got off my mission in March, went on what was called then the block plan, which was specifically designed to help people with the draft. So
Okay. Okay, so you came home. That was a pretty quick transition back to school. And talk about what you were like after your mission socially. Were you excited to date? Were you nervous to date? How did you think about marriage?
okay, so me talking about uh, my life socially would be called the sounds of silence. There wasn't any social life. So as you all heard me say many times, since my mission, I've dated two people and married them both. And was and I was all for getting married, but it wasn't my idea either time.
And is that the case socially just with girls? Were you active socially in other things and it was just that you weren't dating a lot, or what were you like?
No, I wasn't active socially at all, whether it was dating or anything else. It was 100% mission, and then it was 100% school. So
Okay. Okay, so you were not social. So then talk about how Barbara came into your life, how when you met her, what the circumstances were, how long after you'd been home from your mission. Give more of those.
so I got back in March, went to school March, April, May, which was a block, which means a half a semester. Went home for the summer, didn't date. I went to a couple of dances, but didn't date. Came back to school. School was the same as it was every semester. I had to go to the dean uh, every time to get his written permission to take 21 credit hours, which was the max was supposed to be 18. Standard was 15. 12 was fine. You're a full-time student. I wanted to take 21. I had to go get their permission. I did. Got a couple of jobs, and that was what I did. Uh, I loved going to Berkeley before I went on my mission. I only went to BYU because I had to escape the draft. And after those, as I was there for a couple months, it's like, oh, this is a pretty cool place. Maybe I'd stay there. And I had the clear thought, that I did want to get married. I wanted to get married in the temple, and BYU was a more obvious place, a more possible place for a social backwards guy like me than Berkeley.
Got
But
it.
I didn't do any dating to prepare that. It was just something I wanted to do, but I didn't take any of the steps for it to happen.
Did you not do that because you were nervous to do that, or you didn't know how, or just explain that more?
I just had an agenda of things to do like school and work, and that didn't fit in. So
So you knew you wanted that, but it wasn't something you were immediately prioritizing.
Yeah, right. And my transition from being Sam Unwise was, a lot of areas I was very aware of what I was doing, but socially and what it took to get from here to there, I was still Sam Unwise. So
Okay.
pretty oblivious. If somebody who asks me says, "Do you want to get married and have a family?" Yes. Would you like to do that fairly soon? Yes. Why don't you date? And I'd probably go, "Oh, is there a connection there?" So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Nobody had that conversation with me, but that's how it would have gone. I'd
Okay.
probably gone, huh, I guess I need to do something. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So in that context of being really dedicated to school and working, you got home in March. You were there for the block. Then you came back. So how long after that did you meet Barbara?
After Thanksgiving. So uh, went home, Ron, and I can't remember who else. A group of us went home for Thanksgiving weekend, drove back and on a Sunday, uh, supposed to be the normal 10-hour drive, and encountered one of the worst storms that's ever been had on 80. And it took us 24 hours to get back. And we shouldn't have driven all the way back. Part of it is I never in school, never ever cut a class, always went.
Yeah.
Uh, and I had a class at 7 in the morning the next day. The thought of spending the night at a hotel and being safe, I never considered that. And we pulled into Provo at 8 o'clock. So
Wow.
I missed my 7 o'clock class. I went to the other class, worked. Monday, Wednesday, Friday were the ridiculous days. And uh, so I basically went that whole day with no sleep. So the next day was a kind of a more normal day, Tuesday, and it was what was then called Mutual.
Yeah.
Uh, and I never went to that, maybe occasionally, and there is no logical reason for me to go that night because I'd gone a whole day without sleeping and I just tried to catch up. And for reasons that make no sense to me, rather than some tender mercy, I decided to go to Mutual.
Hmm.
And it was our ward in exchange with another ward, and that's where I met her.
Okay.
I mean, it's just, I mean, if I wasn't a religious person, didn't feel that, God had intervention in our lives, especially where we needed it, a slow person like me, I would just be like, that's the most random thing ever, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it was like, for you that didn't know her, just think Mandy, that's who she was.
Yeah.
Very outgoing, very, very fun, focused, was always on her, not because she was egocentric, but just everybody was just attracted to her and very outgoing and fun. And there was a mixer dance thing where we danced, and I just made a comment like, sorry, I'm not any kind of a great dancer. And your mom's response is exactly what you would think if you knew her. Oh yeah, I'll give you dance lessons.
Okay.
So she made our first date. So
And would you say for you, was it love at first sight or interest at first sight on your side, or how would you describe?
she was physically attractive. She was fun, but no, it wasn't love at first sight. But it was like, yeah, this is a cool person. And the idea of dating and being around uh, young women and stuff was fine. I wasn't afraid of that, but it needed to be somebody who was taking all the steps. So,
Yeah.
but she didn't feel pushy with that because I had in high school, I had girls that were pushy and asked me out because they just figured we know he likes girls, but he's just too bashful. I did not like that at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, and that was kind of it. Uh, think we had a dance lesson once, and I saw her a couple times in class. I believe it was only one day for Christmas. And then,
The
uh,
dance lesson was the date you're saying.
yeah, there was the mutual dance on Tuesday, and then maybe that Friday or over, she came over to a place in the evening and gave me some dance lessons.
Yeah.
And as I recall, we gave her a ride home in a car for Christmas. So we drove down to San Jose and let her off. But at then, and Susan, we took Susan too. I think Susan was a Rexburg, which was then a Rex, came down, we gave her a ride. And I wasn't really thinking of dating. In fact, with talking to him, I was like, yeah, I think I'll go up to Rexburg and take Susan out. So
That's what you thought. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I mentioned that, and your mom told me later, but she put the complete kibosh on that. So then then it became January because we're back from Christmas, and I only saw her just taking her down and picking her up, and then we started seeing each other. So it'd be like the second week of January, and at that time we were. It was a semester program. It didn't end at Christmas. It ended the third week of January, and then we had finals. So we had that break. So we dated about 3 weeks, and I mean, I really started to like her. And then it was a Sunday evening, and I had 3 finals the next day. So I really wanted to be with her, and it was great. And but my thought was, I got 3 finals tomorrow. I need to hit those. And so we were talking, and I just thought, well, I'm going to be brave. And so I told her, I I really like being around you, and you're really fun. And I've never told anybody before, any girl, that I love them. And and maybe I feel that way about you, but I'm not sure. And
Yeah.
boom, run with that. And like in 20, 30 minutes, we were engaged. So
So how did give more details on how that went?
I can't remember everything that was said, but that was enough of a step for me that yeah,
Yeah.
we were engaged. It was a complete blur.
And was that was enough? You articulated that and then she ran with that, or because you said that yourself, then you
I
felt
just I just said enough, and she knew me enough that I'm not going to be vulnerable and I'm not going to talk about my feelings. And it was a pretty big step for me to even say that to
yeah.
her, you know, like, I really like being with you. I might even love you, but I really don't know what that feels like. And that was all she needed. And to put it into context, so then, I had to do my homework. So I walked her home, and I had to get her these tests. And the social place was the library. That's where you met and studied and talked or whatever. And so we were in the library the next day for, and I was just in a complete daze. And I think I did 2 of the finals, and I had one more to study for. And we were sitting at the table, and she looked at me like, uh-oh, you know.
Yeah.
And she says, let's go outside. So we went out on the balcony, and she just says, I am really sorry that I went that fast and just assumed all this, and it was too overwhelming. We don't have to be engaged now. Let's just get to know each other more and take time with us. I like how this is going, and it's good. And when she said that, then a light just went on, and it was like, oh, okay. No, I'm totally fine with this. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's when I had my revelation. This was the right thing. And I felt, even as like, okay, it's January, we're going to get married in June. So that'll give me a chance not to change my mind, although that was one of the things I thought. I was like, okay, if I didn't feel like she could not be the right person, because it felt very right. It just felt so quick, and I hardly knew her.
Right.
I hardly knew her, and hadn't really been on that many dates. So, as
Yeah.
it turned out, it was more dates than I went on with Conley. So,
So
and
you
so
guys had been dating for 3 weeks,
about 3 weeks, maybe once or twice a week, or we'd see each other. It was not heavy dating.
and you had known her for less
I
than
had
two
known
months.
her since the 1st of December. That's when I met her.
Okay. And did you have like when you told her that you thought you might love her, did you have any read on where she was at that point? Were you clear of how much she liked you?
Okay, I'm still pretty oblivious.
Right.
I know she liked me because she enjoyed spending time with me. And I didn't know it then, but I kind of knew it because she talked about some of her boyfriends, but she literally could not remember how many times she'd been proposed to.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And the guy she dated then was, let's see, so when we got married, I was 23, she was 22. Yeah, because I became 24 later that year. And the guy she was dating, or she called them and I called them oldies but goodies. So for her to date a guy who was 22 was probably back when she was 16. I was the one of the youngest guys she had ever dated. And they were like good guys, church guys who would have, uh, taken her to the temple. But they were more worldly in terms of not worldly righteousness, but just being aware and social and, and that kind of a thing. They weren't some complete deer in the headlights guy like me.
Yeah.
So the fact that she would hang around me, I had self-confidence, but again, it's like I said with my epitaph, this girl's out of my league, but she seems to like me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you that was pretty quick. Would you say that you married you feel like you married above you? That's what you're saying. So and
And
but where do you like
anybody that knows me and knows Barbara and later with Conley, I mean, I think that's kind of a general opinion. It's like,
now what are so that's your description of the events. Do you remember enough like what's Barbara's description of that
she
time?
didn't like, she wanted, in terms of that Sunday evening, she wanted to, she wanted revisionist history. She did not like me telling her and telling other people that she would, that she's the one that asked, that proposed. But I'd say, okay, back up, let's go over the events. And she couldn't argue with him. So it was, yeah. But anybody who knew both of us, I mean, a lot of ways, I mean, the church was super important to us and kids and family. So in that way, we were a natural pairing. But in other things and personality, it's like, how did those two end up together?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anybody who knew both of us, and when I tell that story, they go, oh, that sounds like exactly what would have happened. Yeah. That she'd be the one, the aggressive one in the relationship.
Right.
But she was not, I never felt she was a pushy person and stuff at all. She was really easy to get along with.
Yeah.
So that semester was interesting because I knew we needed to spend time together, so we could get to know each other. We hardly knew each other. But I wasn't going to change what I was doing. So
Yeah.
21 credits, 2 jobs still, and just, and she was a very good student and changed the classes that she took that semester. And everything she took was to prepare to get married.
Wow.
And it was just a disaster for her.
Why?
Just, she just couldn't focus. She was just so excited and everything. And, her major was CDFR, Child Development, Family Relations. but she just really focused on uh, classes that she felt would prepare her for marriage, which was
Yeah,
interesting because number one, she was a great student. It was kind of close to her major and stuff she's really interested in, but she couldn't focus and she was worried, not worried, but just into thing. I remember, all the preparations and stuff like that.
yeah,
And I remember I was with her on the phone when we called her mom, uh, Grandma Wilson, and she says, "Oh, Mom, I found the right guy." And I heard her mom, she's going, "Oh, that's Barbara, that's nice." Because she had heard that so many times.
sure, totally.
And Grandma Grace is going, and Barbara's going, "No, this is real. This is real. Oh, okay, yeah, that's really nice." So
Yeah,
yeah,
right, exactly. I'll believe it when I
took
see
it took Grandma Wilson a little while to recognize that, oh, she really is getting married this time.
it. Yeah.
So
So tell more, you said that in that moment where Barbara talked to you about it, said essentially we could slow down, you felt like, no, this is okay, the pace is okay. Do
yeah,
you,
it was her saying that. It was on the balcony at the library. When she said that, then it was me. It was like, no, I am very comfortable with this. I don't want to get unengaged. I
yeah,
want to stay engaged because I'm not getting married tomorrow. I'm getting married in June, which, that's still super quick, but did
sure.
not seem quick to me.
And you would describe that moment, I guess the peace you felt then, that was the spiritual confirmation you
Yes,
need, or were there any other moments where you felt the spiritual confirmation of like, no, this feels like the right thing to do?
that was more every day. Everything felt right about it. Everything.
Yeah,
People have, it's very normal, at least as I've been around people, to have second thoughts on the day or whatever. None, ever.
and
Pretty
was
sure she didn't either. So,
that's what I was going to ask. So was that the case for her as well?
uh, if she did, she didn't share them with me. And it would make sense that if she did, she would keep them to herself because she was very good about being not self-centered and thinking of other people. And she would think, okay, I'm not going to say anything of that to Rick because that'll freak him out.
Yeah. So that was January. You guys got married in June. And then
June,
and
yeah.
what was so across those 6 months, what was that like? Did you see each other every day? Did
Yeah,
you
we saw each other every day, but a lot of times it would just be in between classes and stuff like that.
yeah,
I mean, we would be together on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and so yeah.
yeah,
But I was I was excited to be married and very comfortable with her, but it had no impact on my work or my school, none.
yeah. Meaning
And
you didn't modify
people,
your schedule at all.
I didn't modify any of my time that I spent on my classes or homework or papers or nothing. And anybody who knows me go, yeah, it sounds like him.
Yeah, right. So what are the okay, before I forget, because I don't think I know this story. Do you remember where your first kiss was? When that happened, where you were?
I should because I've only kissed three girls, but I don't.
Okay.
As you were saying that, it's like, so when I walked her home that Sunday night, I must have kissed her. Yeah, but
Yeah, that's a story I
oh
don't
no,
think.
I do have a vague memory. It was like she lived east about 4 blocks. So it was pretty easy to walk her home. So I walked her home and kissed her.
Okay.
And and I'm sure she wasn't surprised at all. She probably had kind of set it up and made it happen or whatever. So yeah, it made it feel like it was my idea. I'd
But
forgotten that, but I do remember that. Yeah, yeah, I was walking her home.
the night you guys got well, the night you guys first talked about
I think it was before. No, it was before that.
okay.
It
Okay.
was before that.
So when you're the night of your initial engagement, you guys had already kissed before then.
Yes,
Okay.
but not often.
Yeah.
Our relationship, I don't want to get TMI, but it was uh, it was loving, but it wasn't physical enough that anything was tempting or like, oh, this is where we should stop. We were way on this side of that.
Yeah.
So
With her, you saying you being fully dedicated to school and to work, was that a point of tension or just that's just how
no,
things
no, she was she was just her whole life. She was always so supportive of me and so
yeah,
great.
yeah,
Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it was really, really good.
yeah,
And I'm not being self-deprecating and unnecessarily humble. I give her full credit for that. Well, I went along willingly. I mean, she
right,
had all the right ideas of the way
yeah,
things should be and stuff like that. And I felt she was inspired that way and I just bought into it. So it wasn't like she was running the show.
yeah,
Because she wouldn't have wanted to marry somebody like that.
right.
Yeah.
And you said so personality wise, let's go back to that one. You said she's like Mandy, but for somebody who's never met Mandy or who wants to understand what Barbara was like, give a more of a description of what she was like then.
Very outgoing, very conscious of other people, very much into fun, extremely directionally challenged, like Mandy is, cannot, when she let me off on the plane to uh, go serve my time in the Army to fly to the East Coast and had to drive back from the airport. She ended up in Northern California, some odd place. Yeah, yeah. But just very social and outgoing and had a very good sense in a room full of people who was the person who was kind of shy and needed to be talking to. And yeah, very bubbly and outgoing. And yeah,
Yeah,
very, very thoughtful of other people. And it was not surprising to me as we had kids there. I mean, all three, Emily, uh, Mandy and Holly are all just, the biggest thing in their life is to be a mom. But in that way, I describe her, she's like Holly, that's just everything to her.
yeah. And do you feel like you were drawn to that side of her being outgoing, aware of other people? Do you feel like that was a compliment to
Yes,
her so that
yes.
you're drawn to
And
that?
that made me very comfortable to be around her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
And it was like one of the things I remember even at the time, I thought at the end through both my marriages, it was like I was aware enough that when we would have, lessons on in young men about getting married in the temple, that was never a question. But that's the kind of person. And talk about beauty on the outside versus beauty on the inside. It's like, no, that's what I'm going to do. And it would never, it sounds dumb. It never occurred to me that I could marry somebody who was beautiful on the outside and the inside. It just hadn't dawned on me. It was like, she's very attractive and very good looking. And you could tell a lot of guys really liked her. And it's like, whoa, you can marry somebody who's got a testimony and can have that too. I didn't think they could both happen.
yeah, right.
Which is kind of dumb, but anyway,
Sure.
that's the way I thought.
And and how old was mom then?
So so uh her birthday, so she's 1947. So when we got engaged, she was 21, and then 2 weeks later she became 22.
Okay.
And then when we got married in June, she was 22. I was 23, and then that October I became 24.
Okay.
So we were a year and a half apart.
Okay. And you always so the plan was always to get married in June.
It
Uh,
was like it was uh I can't remember it was the next day. I can't remember if it was the next day on the balcony or uh the next day on the balcony or whether it was that Sunday night. But yeah, it was clearly June. It was going to be early June in Oakland Temple. was obvious because that was her family's temple and ours, that was an obvious place, so.
That time, so she was 21, you were 22,
She was 21, like 2 weeks from being 22.
right?
I was 23.
And you dated quote unquote for 3 weeks before you got engaged, and then were married 6 months after that. Was that
Married, basically a little over 4 months after that.
okay? Okay. And would you say that was kind of standard at that time? Was that
No, that
fast?
was quick. That was quick, but it felt like all the time that I needed. And she was there too. I mean, if her parents or our parents would go, that's a little quick. Why don't you get married the 1st of July? Both of us would have gone, why?
Mm.
Why? Why would we do that?
And June made the most sense just because it was after the semester was
It
over.
was right after school was out. June 5th, school was out. March, or excuse me, May 31st. It was the earliest possible day we could get married.
Okay. And so you talked about what she was studying in school. What year in school were both of you at that point then?
So I was, I'd taken a bunch of extra classes, but I was officially in my uh, junior year. I think she was in her junior year too.
Okay. Okay. So both of you
Isn't that
guys were.
embarrassing? I can't even remember that she graduated.
I was thinking that a couple minutes ago. I was
I
going to
can't
ask.
remember.
Yeah.
She was very serious about school. And just, that semester was just a complete wipeout for her because she was so excited about. I don't think she did graduate. Yeah.
Yeah. She stopped going after you guys got married because she would have had a year left.
No, she did some classes.
But you don't remember her walking and graduating.
No, she didn't graduate. I remember what she did that the first year of school is, again, I didn't back up on my schedule at all. And I remember having a class from 7 to 8, working from 8 to 12, and then having a class at 12, which means it started 12:10. I worked in the ISB building, in the accounting department. She would meet me there and walk me in that 10 minutes. That's how we would get together. She would walk me those 10 minutes and feed me a lunch she had made.
Oh, wow.
So she may have been doing school, but it wasn't as many hours and stuff as I was taking. So
Okay. Okay. All right. So then June in the Oakland Temple.
then we were the summer in California working.
Yeah. But let's share a little bit more. What do you remember most about your wedding day? What you said you weren't nervous at all, but tell what other memories do you have of that day?
I guess the main thing would be that nothing really stands out. It just felt, as I've been around, kids who've been married and others, it just seems like it's natural not to have second thoughts, but to be nervous. And it's like, wow, this is a big step. It just seems so natural to me. It's just like, this is just exactly what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And and even though we didn't spend a lot of time, we spent enough that I go, this is this is an awesome person. And this is a really easy person to live with.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, I got to know her when we didn't spend a lot of time together, but I remember at a point in the semester, she says, I'm thinking that we shouldn't have kids right away. We need to spend time to get to know each other. And I said, fine with me. And I go, but I knew her, I go, that's not going to happen.
All right.
That's not what she wants. So,
Right. You knew her well enough to know that at that
yeah.
point.
And Mike was born 3 weeks late, born the day after our first anniversary. And she felt that she was so put upon that she had to wait that long to get pregnant.
Yeah.
So I did know her well enough to know that. It's like, no, you want to be a mom in a big way and right away. And I always wanted 10 kids. So it's like, and I always felt with her, that's when to have kids. I know it's a joint thing, but that's a woman's call.
Right. Yeah.
She's the nurturer. She's the one that's got to go through it. So yeah.
And okay, so that your main memory of the your wedding day was that it you weren't didn't it you weren't it didn't it felt natural. You didn't feel nervous at all.
Didn't
And
feel nervous, and it was all just fun. The whole thing is standing in the line and greeting people, and the
yeah,
honeymoon night of, no details to be given, but just two very inexperienced people in that regard, just
yeah,
getting to know each other. And the honeymoon was, we drove to Southern California along uh, Highway 1 and just, Disneyland. And
that's what I was gonna ask. So you spent how long was your honeymoon? Where all did you guys go?
it was a week, I guess. It was basically driving up and down the coast and going to Disneyland.
Okay, fun.
I
And
just
then
remember us laughing. We went to some just real dive on some town right on the coast, and somebody came over and took our order. We both wanted a hamburger, and she turned around and didn't go to the kitchen. She just turned around and yelled at the kitchen, "Burgers a pair." So, and Barbara and I just laughed at that. Yeah. So I guess the most remarkable memory about the honeymoon, the early time of being married, and the wedding day is just how natural and fun and easy it was,
yeah,
which really, in a way, doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
yeah. Because you hadn't known each other that long, or
We hadn't known each other that long. And especially me, I'm not really used to being in a relationship.
yeah.
So,
And did you with that, kind of being your first real relationship, do you feel like you opened up a lot? Did you do that naturally, or how would you describe what you were like in the relationship?
it would be, I would have had to be really ornery and even more stubborn than I am to not be open with Barbara.
Yeah,
She didn't demand it. It's just her personality. It was just expected. So,
yeah,
and I thought of it more later. I wasn't thinking at the time, but it was like she did and was going to really change the way, just my personality. And I was very willing and open to that. I wasn't thinking at the time, but that's what was happening.
yeah,
But the relationship thing was probably defined later. I did have one girl I dated before my mission, Judy, that I really liked, and had a bad breakup, which was 100% my fault. And I felt bad about that and wanted to apologize to her later. And I had a chance to meet her after we'd been married. And your mom said, "No, you can't." I was like, "Oh, okay, I won't." I said, "How come?" I said, "You have been in relationships. You literally can't remember how many times you were uh, proposed to.
yeah,
How come it's different for you than me?" And she just goes, "Because I had a lot and she was the only one." I went, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." So,
interesting.
and I did meet her later because Conley didn't care.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. But I mean, I remember it was that. So it was like, I wasn't dying to see her, but it was just like, it was just kind of interesting of what your mom said. It was like, yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so that was honeymoon. Let's wrap with talking. So that was honeymoon in California, and then talk about early married life. Where did you guys live? What was that? You alluded to it a little bit. You kept your same schedule, but talk about maybe that first year of marriage, anything that stands out.
sure. Sure, one that really stands out is that first summer we lived in apartments that my dad built.
Okay.
And I could, and we lived in phase one, and phase two was the back, and that's where I worked, so I could walk to work. But my most vivid memory of that summer was July of '69. My mom and dad came over to eat, and I got hepatitis, mononucleosis, pneumonia, and something else at the same time. I was really sick for a week.
Oh, wow.
I remember how sick I was because they were over. I was laying on the couch, and I got my head up to look at the TV to watch the moon landing. So
Oh my goodness. Wow.
it had no lasting effects. I mean, to this day, I'm not sure whether I had hepatitis or not because I've been told by doctors that it was misdiagnosed. And later they said the misdiagnosis was, that's the main thing I remember, just being real sick for a week. So
And that was where was that apartment?
it was in Carmichael,
Okay.
Ridgecrest Apartments, it was called. And
Yeah.
then we lived uh, down on, I can't remember the street, but right there, you know where Provo Cemetery is?
Yeah.
We lived right across the street from that at a place called the Uri Motel, which had been turned into apartments.
Okay.
And we lived on one unit, and that's where she was, uh, found out she was pregnant and everything. And Ron and Vicky, who got married 6 months after us, lived
Hmm.
across the courtyard. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and I remember with married life, it was like she and I commented, it's like, we said we had no money and not getting any from our parents and didn't want to. But we didn't feel like we were poor. We just felt like every other student.
Right.
And we just said, wow, if we'd have gotten married and lived in Carmichael, we'd have really felt sorry for ourselves. But it's
Yeah,
like,
right. But there felt
we had
normal.
money, nobody else had money. So we liked to go to the movies. There was the Varsity Theater where they had movies, 25 cents. And there was the Joseph Smith building where movies were free. So I'd say, do you want to go to a movie tonight? Because we'd go, yeah, let's do it. I said, okay, I'm going to school. We can go to the free movie, or if we want to go to the 25-cent movie, that's 50 cents. You need to sell some books. You need to go earn 50 cents. That's how we agreed on. So she'd go up to school and sell a couple of books, and
Oh
then
my,
we'd go to the 50-cent movie. But again, it's BYU. It's fine. It's like people had multiple kids and had as little money as we did, so we didn't feel poor.
right. Yeah. And you think she took some classes that first year, but she wasn't taking a full load and trying to finish out
She
school.
wasn't full, and I'm trying to remember the second semester when she was pregnant. If she did, it wouldn't be very many because I wouldn't be like her.
Yeah.
It's like she's going to do everything to get ready to be a mom. So
Yeah. And did she work then? Did she ever work when you knew her?
she worked in that first summer. I did a lot of stuff real estate wise with Dr. Bueller, Ronald Bueller in Carmichael. And there was another doctor in the office there, and she worked for him as a dental assistant because she'd kind of done that before.
Okay.
But she'd worked a lot in her life. So,
Yeah. Okay.
but her working that second semester when she was pregnant or when we were uh, after we had Michael,
Yeah.
if somebody would have said, hey, did you ever think about working? She'd have looked at him like, that would have been like, ask her to get a tattoo or something to be like, what are you talking about?
Right, right, right. Yeah, that
Why
was
would I
never,
do that? Yeah.
yeah. Okay, any other final thoughts on meeting Barbara, getting married, anything we didn't cover?
Yeah. I remember I got a job in California at a CPA firm without an interview. It just basically give them the job. My first job interview was after prison, but it was like I was supposed to go right after school. Uh, uh, yeah, go there and get started. And we were late because Mike was 20 days late. So we were just
Oh, wow.
waiting for him to be born, so.
They let her go that long.
Yeah, and a couple things, they, uh, it wasn't a very exact science. She was, she was not very fertile, she hardly ever had a period, so it
Yeah.
was kind of hard to measure. And, well, it ended up with you because the first baby was delivered in Utah by another doctor, but everybody else was delivered by Dr. Berry. And when Holly was 5 weeks late, I just, I teased him so bad about he never got the date right. He refused to give us a date with you. So we don't know how early you were.
Yeah.
So she was, yeah. So maybe she wasn't 20 days late. And if they would have been able to measure, they probably wouldn't have let her go that long.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
so, it wasn't really a very exact science, but everybody was late.
Yeah. Got
So
it.
let's see other things. Are there any questions I didn't answer on the
No, I
list?
think most of the topics we wanted to hit.
All right.
Okay, and that this will obviously will bleed into other topics of your military service and other things about school, but that was a good intro to mom.
Okay. So
Awesome.
next one, how often do we do this?